2 meals a day, 6 meals a day, grazing all day. What's the best plan? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Reese and I'm here with Ben Lingle. Ben, thanks for joining me
Yeah.
today. We've been talking about weight loss and insulin and all of that. And what have you done in the past? What do you think is the best or you've heard is going to be in terms of meal spacing and
Well,
frequency?
I've heard a lot of things. What I do personally, I like 2 meals a day, but I've also heard people doing, like you just said, 6 meals a day, but maybe there's smaller meals throughout the day. So, yeah, for me, it's 2 meals a day, but I don't know, can it be different for everybody?
Yeah, I think that there is individuality,
Okay.
and I think that that can depend on maybe what we're struggling with. So, someone who's used to binge eating, for example, they might benefit from small meals. Knowing I can eat a small amount, I can eat in a couple hours more, and that prevents them from the over binge eating. There's more of a psychological component to that that
Right.
can be really beneficial.
Mhm.
But really, for sustainable weight loss, remember we were talking about insulin being a really important hormone that we want to reduce. And when you realize that every single time we eat, we are creating a surge of insulin in our body. So every single time we eat, insulin naturally rises to help take care of the response of absorption of the increased blood glucose from the food we're eating. And it's not just a lot of times when people think of blood sugar, they think that only comes from carbs. It doesn't. There's other, we can talk about that another
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But every meal, we're going to have an increase of insulin, right?
Interesting.
So picture this. I just had a breakfast, especially if it was a high carb, like orange juice, pancakes, bagel, that kind of a breakfast,
Yep.
cold cereal.
Potatoes or something.
Yes, that's gonna require an even greater it's gonna result in an even greater insulin surge,
Hmm.
and then a couple hours later, when that sugar kinda leaves me feeling deflated, I might go get coffee that has, cream and sugar in it,
Mhm.
and that's going to cause more insulin,
Mm.
and then a couple hours later, I'm going to be maybe eating a lunch, and that's gonna and every single time I eat, so my insulin is never allowed to come down and stay low,
Oh.
right?
Yep.
So I'm creating this environment in my body where my insulin is constantly elevated. What's the problem with that?
Seems like you're like you just said, it can't take a rest, so to speak. It can't come back down. So it's on this roller coaster and it's trying to figure out, wait a minute, should I be down or should I be up? Should I be down? Should I be up?
Yeah. And we learned last time that when it's up, we're not gonna break fat down.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We're gonna be constantly just burning up the glucose that's in my bloodstream as a source of fuel,
Mhm.
but I'm not tapping into my fat reserves.
Especially if your fat is insulin resistant,
Yeah.
where it's so big, it can't take any more of the
Right.
insulin.
Right. So, when we think about that as a just awareness,
Mhm.
not only what we eat is going to start changing, we're going to be start thinking, how can I moderate my insulin response? But we're also going to be realizing and identifying the value of meal spacing. Right? So you eat 2 meals a day. I actually think that's really cool because when you're eating 2 meals a day and you're not snacking in between, you're allowing for that insulin surge, but you're also allowing for it to come down.
Come down.
And while it's coming down, your body has an opportunity to shift into burning maybe whatever excess, might be have been stored or whatever. It can use that as fuel for that period of time
Mm.
until you eat again.
Mhm.
And this is where especially nighttime snacking becomes really you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage,
Mhm.
when you're snacking at nighttime. So for a lot of people, their biggest meal is dinner, and then after that, they might get the munchies, or they want a dessert, or they want a pre-bedtime, something or
Snack.
other. Yeah, and so there we are eating our little snack, and typically it's going to be something carby, whether it's salty or whether it's sweet. So we're going to elicit that insulin response, and even through the night now, my insulin's elevated. My insulin takes time. My blood sugar can come down long before my insulin level.
Hmm.
So my insulin level can stay elevated, like, for 3 to 4 hours after a meal easily.
Oh.
And
And you're not burning fat at that point
no,
because your insulin levels are up.
exactly.
But I think what you're saying is, I know for me, like, I like to do intermittent fasting, and it seems like there could be some power in that, and that may be a totally another topic for another time, but that's really interesting. It makes total sense what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly, though, what I'm saying. This is the topic of intermittent
Okay.
fasting.
Alright.
So if you stop eating, let's say someone stops eating by 4 or 5 PM,
Mhm.
and they don't eat again throughout the evening. So insulin's going to rise, it's going to come down. They fall asleep at a low insulin state.
Mm.
All night long, insulin is low. Guess what their body is going to start tapping into for fuel?
Yep.
Yep,
Fat.
fat.
Yep.
Eventually. Now, we have other forms of fuel storage
Mhm.
that it's going to take hours to burn into, but by the time we've hit 12 hours, we are primarily tapping into fat as a fuel source.
Wow.
So that's why this whole, going 14 hours, 16 hours can be such a good tool and can really help people find success with their weight loss.
Now, what's interesting about that, from what I'm hearing what you're saying, is we were talking about caloric deficits. What's interesting to me is that will help in some ways balance your calorie intake as well, because if you're fasting at that point, you're not bringing in calories. In some ways, it's almost like they're hand in hand, or at least they have a correlation to each other.
Yeah. So that whole intermittent fasting is really accomplishing a couple things. You are of necessity restricting your calories, but then you're also shifting your biochemistry. You're shifting what's
Mhm.
going on internally so that your body is like, insulin's down. Now I can start using up some of the stored fuel sources and then at some point tapping into fat and breaking it down, to provide the energy that you need. And intermittent fasting, I'm so glad there's such an emphasis on it. It is sometimes challenging for people. I get it, feeling hungry. We don't like that feeling. But after you practice it for a while, it actually becomes more tolerable.
Yeah, and you feel good. I know for me, like, especially, sometimes your stomach feels like you're hungry. It kind of growls, as we like to say. But like for me, sometimes drinking water just offsets that feeling entirely,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. So, what a cool tool that we have, and it's not a calorie restriction. And the thing that I love about intermittent fasting is that it's actually muscle sparing. And what that means is that you're not breaking muscle down as much. It spares your muscles. It's really primarily trying to tap into fat. It's not like just calorie restriction by itself, right? So if you ate good for the meals that you had during that day, but then you're allowing yourself that time of fasting, I think it's going to be a win-win.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember, you can watch all of our latest content on our 3ABN Plus app. Click the link below or scan the QR code to download our app.